What's going on, y'all? I'm your host, Cool Colas, and you are now tuning into a new video on my channel. For today's topic, I'm going to be reviewing the Ironheart TV show, and I'm going to be telling you all about my thoughts on this, and then I'm going to do a little bit of an analysis as well, too, about some of the things that I noticed while watching this show, since I've watched it all the way through at this point. So let's get into it. So I want to start off by talking about what I said in my previous video where I talked about the Ironheart TV show, or at least my thoughts going into this TV show. So I said a lot of things, and some things I was right about, some things I was wrong about. So let's start off with the things that I was wrong about. There were two specific things that I said that I wasn't completely right about, and I want to kind of go into that. So the first thing that I wasn't right about was the fact that I thought this show was going to bomb, and I thought this show was going to be a bust. I was wrong about that. This show is actually doing pretty well. As a matter of fact, I'll even double down and say this. I saw that they first review bombed this show and said that it was horrible and gave it bad reviews. And they did that before the show even released and people got to see it, which I don't believe is fair. I believe that all of these shows should get a fair chance. Now, I did say that I wasn't excited going in, and then I had to kind of take my whole mindset and change it so that I can watch this with a clean slate and without any prejudgments, although it was difficult. And I did that. And I do think that TV shows, again, should have a fair shot if they're going to come out, especially if they're black TV shows. So that's one thing that I will say is that I thought this show was going to bomb, and it didn't bomb. The reviews, for the most part, were pretty good. I'll admit, it had a decent story. The pacing was good. There were some decent twists as well, too. And I actually did like the way that they did some of these character reveals. I thought they did it in a way that was constructive. It was kind of predictable, but it was a good predictable. I wasn't really too mad at any of that. So I got to kind of give them credit where credit is due when it comes to that. The other thing that I was wrong about was that I didn't think that my opinion was going to change very much when it came to Riri as a character and when it came to this show and how I felt about it overall. And I was wrong. It did change. Now, this is kind of twofold, so I'm going to try to break it down as best as possible so y'all can kind of get what I'm saying. I was wrong when it came to both the character and it came to the actual TV show and story itself. When it came to the TV show and story itself, I was wrong in the idea that I was pretty much already not sold, and I probably wasn't going to like the way that they did the actual show. To be quite honest with you, I didn't really mind it. I thought that it actually had a pretty decent storyline. I wasn't really too mad about how it was written and how it kind of went and played out all the way through. I was also wrong about Riri as a character. I said that my opinion wasn't going to change, and it did. It got worse, y'all. Now let's talk about where I was right, because there were things that I still was right about when it came to Riri's character. As a matter of fact, I said a lot of things about what the preview was showing, and those things are pretty much affirmed. Not only do I not like Riri's character, I actually dislike her ass more. I mean, Riri is selfish. Riri is condescending. Riri is not heroic. Riri is irresponsible. Riri is manipulative. Riri is secretive. Matter of fact, Riri got so many bad traits, y'all. She barely has any good traits. I can barely think of anything that she did that actually was good. Now, a lot of people say, oh, she was smart. She was intelligent. The world got enough intelligent people who ain't shit. And I mean, it was so bad, even the show was affirming that she wasn't a good person. Think about when Riri went to the love interest dude and she was asking him, am I a good person? She was seeking validation at that point, or at least for him to basically change her mind. She already knew, like, hey, I ain't shit, but hopefully if I talk to this Negro right here, he's going to be enough of a simp to tell me that I'm a good person, change my mind. He's going to gas me up. But he literally couldn't even tell her to her face that she was a good person. I mean, he danced around that shit like a damn ballerina. Like, this dude literally was like, well, we ain't got to think about good and bad. You just smart. That's what you got. You smart. Like, this Negro couldn't even tell her that she wasn't a good person. That's how you already knew, man. And we need to just look at some of the moments that proved that she wasn't a good person. And I'm not going to go through all of the moments where she did something that was bad, but I'm going to give you a few examples of where I seen that she was a problem. Think about when she was dealing with Ezekiel Stain and she basically got him caught up where he ended up getting locked up and put in prison. And then she goes to visit him and she says, "Hey, buddy. Hey, I like that color that you're in." That's some condescending shit. That's how you can already tell that she wasn't a good person just from that alone. And then she also didn't really want to admit or take accountability for her bad actions. Think about when, she made the AI that was based off of her memories. And then she wouldn't tell Xavier, that was a love interest dude, that she had made this AI based off of his sister. She kept it a secret for a long time. And then when Xavier found out and he blew up about it and he wasn't happy about it, she wasn't really trying to admit her fault in it. At one point, she was sounding like Will's daddy on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. She was like, you think I want this? It just happened. And by the way, there's a lot of people who are getting butthurt online because Riri's character is getting criticized. And I just have two different things that I want to say about that. Number one, it's easily debunkable. And number two, I don't really give a shit. And here's the reason why. If I, as a black man, was a character in the MCU and I did everything that Riri did and then tried to call myself a hero as well too, I would be called a narcissist. I would be called emotionally unintelligent. And I would be called somebody who is just a bad person. There's no type of flaw or I'm just a human or any of that would be put onto my character. I would already be permanently cemented as this type of individual. And that label or those labels would stay with me. With Riri, she gets to be flawed. She gets to make mistakes. She gets to do all types of things to people and be selfish and be distant and all these other things. And then it's just okay. It's not. The other thing too, a lot of people are making comparisons between her and Tony Stark and saying people didn't really hammer down on Tony Stark like that, although everybody's talking badly about Riri. And my point here is that when it comes to the Iron Man character or the Tony Stark character, he was all those things and he did get a lot of criticism. Think about it. He was called a jerk. He was called a narcissist. He was called irresponsible. All these things were debatable when it came to his character. As a matter of fact, we can all see that Tony Stark's decisions were almost entirely selfish up into Avengers. And when he made that big sacrifice, that was them showing us that he was a respectable person who had changed his ways and did things that were for the better of society. But ultimately, my point here is that Tony Stark was getting criticism and she's also getting criticism as well, too. Also, just to be clear, Tony Stark's character was also very witty and it came off funny at times. He had emotional baggage. He had honest moments of doubt and even guilt in some cases. Riri presented herself like she didn't have to be accountable for her actions and that she was never wrong, especially when she actually was wrong a lot. And so that didn't really play into it well. And let me be clear, I just have to bring up the moment where I said Riri is also not very funny. I mean, think about when she tried to pull that joke on Okoye and she was talking about how, oh, you got all that ash on your forehead. Nothing about that was funny. Think about what I also said in the previous video where I looked at the preview and I was like, Riri's character is not really trying to do things for the better of society. She's trying to do it for the better of herself. I mean, she even had two moments where villains were questioning her about what she was doing when it came to her technology and her building the suit and things like that. And every time it either alluded to her doing something iconic or it alluded to her saying that she wanted to build a suit for herself. Now, towards the end of the show, they try to throw in a little something to basically say, oh, I want to do this because I remember the time when Natalie and then my stepdaddy had got shot. So I wanted to make sure that I was protecting my family. So that may be part of it, right? but ultimately her main goal was to have notoriety for herself. And the way you know this is because you can see as a little girl that this was a big deal for her. She loved to be in the shop making different tech machines and things like that. So she's been like that since she was a little girl. This was something that added on to her motivations, but throughout the show, she makes an emphasis to basically tell people over and over again that she is doing this because she wants notoriety for building that suit. Not once up until the end does she say that part of her motivation is because she wants to save her family. Again, I want to make it clear that this is a show that had a good story, but it had a lot of flaws as well too. Like, again, the action was good, the pacing was good. I could follow the story. The predictability did not bother me as well too. So for some people it bothered them, for me it didn't. But I noticed that there were a lot of gaps and a lot of things that really didn't make sense. And I'll point out one specifically that didn't make sense to me. One thing that really didn't make sense was when the teacher or the principal, whoever that was, the black lady who she was talking to when she was at the dean's office at her college, when they basically kicked her out of the school. They said they were expelling her and they told her to go collect her things. She literally got the entire iron suit that she made and then she just flew the hell off. Didn't nobody chase her, didn't nobody say hey, didn't nobody like literally try to flag her down. They just let her just go and kind of do her thing. I'm looking and I'm like, what kind of shit is this? So that's when I'm like, had this been any other character, then they probably would have followed, them and then tried to hunt them down. I mean, she literally flew back to her hometown and then just did her thing, which to me didn't really make sense. Also, I just got to say, I really didn't like the ending as well too, because again, it solidified how much of a shitty character Riri is, because literally she saw what was happening to Parker, that is the Hood, who is the villain of this show, and she still was willing to make a deal with Mephisto at the end of the show. So to me, that didn't really make any sense, because it's like, so you were literally saying, hey, look what this Hood is doing to you, only for you to turn around and then make a deal with Mephisto yourself, which makes absolutely no sense and shows that you didn't learn anything from this entire endeavor. So I just gotta say that Marvel has a bad habit of doing these mismatch pairs between heroes and villains. They love to take a B-list hero and match them with what should be an S-tier villain. And then it literally just degrades the actual villain and the impact that they could have. So like, I'm gonna give you an example. Like if you look at Kang the Conqueror, he was positioned to have a feud with Ant-Man, who really ain't shit. The Thunderbolts had a feud with Sentry, who were no match for him. And now Riri has a feud with Mephisto, or a potential feud that it may turn into. That makes no sense. Like, they should have A-list or S-tier heroes with A-list or S-tier villains. But they've had this trend of giving us these top-tier villains and then pairing them with characters who they either have not built up poorly, or literally might as well be sidelines. One thing that I just need to keep reiterating is, as I watched this show, I didn't not only dislike the character more, but I also noticed that the actress and her acting didn't really grow on me as well too. Now, obviously, I want this sister to be able to get her paper and to do well, because I want to see Black people succeed. But I just had a very difficult time getting behind her acting. Like, it wasn't believable. I didn't really like it. And it could be that the character was bad and she was doing the best that she could with it. But at the same time, I just simply did not like the acting. Like, to me, she just feels like a character who I had a hard time just becoming attached to because of her personality. But I mean, I can't really tell if how they played her character was an accident or if it was on purpose, because her acting didn't make it believable, so I personally also just was not a fan of that as well too. You know, y'all, I think my real problem with her acting is it just came off kind of stiff. Like she had the same facial expressions, and it didn't really seem like there was like depth in the way she was acting, and as a result I just didn't really like her character. But I'll say this. Considering everything that I watched, I thought that this was a show again that had decent action. It had decent pacing. It had a lot of interesting reveals, so I give them that. The story I was able to follow pretty clearly, and to me it wasn't really all over the place. It just made sense. It was predictable, but it made sense. But there also were a lot of flaws. There were a lot of things that didn't make sense, and there were a lot of times where I was like, why did you put that in there? Like, them mixing the technology with the magic. Like, I thought it was going to go a little bit better. I thought that, the way that they kind of built it up, I don't think that it totally made sense to me in the way that I wanted it to. So I'm saying all this to basically say, if I had to give this show a rating, I probably would say that it was maybe like 6.5, 7 out of 10. It wasn't bad. I didn't hate it, but I also noticed the problems. But again, stay tuned because I'm going to be talking soon about the tropes that I noticed in this show, because there are some tropes and we going to have a discussion, y'all, because it was bad. All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and I'll definitely have more to come, so make sure you stay tuned. In the meantime, I would love it if you hit the like button, the subscribe button, the share button, and the bell icon so you get notifications for whenever I come out with new content on this channel. Other than that, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out, y'all.